Hi, everyone. I'm Jack. Welcome to the official IslesDen YouTube channel. We're going to be doing a lot more Islanders postgame show and podcasting content for this upcoming season. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. You can also find my weekly podcast on Twitter at Isles House, co hosted by myself at IslesDen, Ethan at EthanGSN, and Rocco at Pizza Sports Guy, all on Twitter. Thank you for joining me. Welcome in to another Isles post game. As I've said all season, we're here for the good, we're here for the bad, and we are certainly here for the ugly, joined by some special guests. We got Chris, we got Phil. Boys, how are we doing after that one?
Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I want to defer to the senior statesman here.
Hey, not feeling good. Usually they say, well, in fact, I guarantee you all the clips on the MSG post-game show will be Anders Lee and Barzal and other guys saying the good thing is we have a game tomorrow, right? That might be the only positive, but I certainly have my concerns because Columbus had a fairly tame one, got in early, and the Islanders we're in a war for two periods, and I don't know what I know it wasn't great in the first two periods, but that third period was a disaster. So I'd be lying if I didn't say I felt good about this team right now. We'll see what happens on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, not good. Not feeling good is how I would summarize my feelings. I'm right in tune with Chris over here, and people thought we would disagree tonight, but no, not at all.
Man,
but it is early, right?
Yeah,
how you feeling, Jack?
I think I'm still in shock because the game was 3-3 in the beginning of the third period, and they got exactly what they needed about a minute in. It was a Schaefer bomb, and it felt like it was going to be another game from this season of, okay, we're going to find a way here. But, oh my, this one slipped away in a fashion that it hasn't all season. I mean, it's just a disaster. We got Caulfield getting a hat trick. We have Patrick Waugh challenging goals, the 8th goal of the game with a minute left. And the funniest part is that player, Zach Bolduc, had like a 28-game goal drought, and he ripped it away from him. But yeah, that was ugly. And it's hard not to like that. That's the type of game that's going to be hard to get out of our heads. And they're lucky, and I think we're lucky that they play tomorrow. And as much as it seems like it's all over, if you get 2 points tomorrow in regulation, which after watching that, I know it sounds literally impossible right now, you're kind of right back in a position where you're right there. But it's hard to unsee the last 15 minutes of that game. And, there were times tonight in the first period, I didn't think they played great, but they came out with a 2-1 lead. The second period, I thought the first 10, 15 minutes of that second period was the best they looked all night. Schaefer hit the post. Schaefer scored a goal that didn't count. If he never touched that puck, it would have been a goal. It would have been 3-1.
Yeah.
And then
Barzal hit the post too.
Barzal hit the post. So we had 2 posts, and, they didn't get those bounces. And the Canadiens on a rebound, they make it 2-2, and then D'Angelo takes a penalty, and then it's 3-2. And I'm thinking when we're going to the third, all right.
As soon as Slafkovsky kept that puck in, I mean, Pellick rimmed that one pretty hard. I'm like, that one's oh no, that's not getting out of the zone yet. That's going to be in the back of the net in about 5 seconds.
Yeah, I just felt going into the third, okay, like we had our meltdown. At least it wasn't at the end of the game, but little did I know we were a second meltdown was about to begin, and one of pretty epic proportions. So the takeaways are just hard because it just felt like it a total meltdown to end the game there. Nobody was playing well. Barzal just lost his shit when they pulled the goalie down 3 goals, the Patrick Waugh special. Barzal melting down there like something, it's been a big topic. They're bringing in leadership. We're going to find out a lot about this leadership over the next 24 hours. Would you guys agree?
Yeah. One of the things that it's surprising that it happened in the moment, regardless of what you think of the roster or the lineups, is that for 2 periods, I thought in terms of them pushing back, it was a battle out there. It was a physical battle out there. Playoff hockey in some ways. It was playoff hockey between 2, lower seeds, right? Yeah. And for the Islanders to fall apart like they did in the third, I mean, that's now 2 games in a row on the road, but big deal. It's the NHL. Teams win on the road all the time. And they were pushed around. Like, I am really hesitant to talk big words about getting their manhood challenge and those kind of things. But boy, they are, if you look at what happened in Ottawa in the third, and then tonight in the third in Montreal, that was, they got a lot to make up. And, I think in a perfect world, they would have a day or two to recover from their wounds. And then to play Columbus of all teams, who can be as chippy as anyone, especially with their two new additions. So it's going to be a fascinating game to watch. They are not out of it. I'm going to say this right now. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm not good at math, but I understand points. Like, they have 12 games left. They have 10 of them at home. That doesn't mean anything. I don't care about the level of competition. That stat doesn't mean anything this time of year. We know that as Islander fans who watch bad Islander teams win games in the final week of the season. We'll see what happens with Dallas. We'll see what happens with Chicago later on this week. They are still in it, but boy, they're going to have to pick themselves up real soon. One more last thing to add is, I don't know what Jacob Fowler is, right? I just don't know what he is. If you guys have insights, if Phil has insights to that, bring it on, please. But they also played a team in Montreal whose goalie did not have to do anything. The few times he had to do something, he was bad. And they
saved him.
And this still happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bigger issue was against Reimer, right? Reimer was literally signed off the street like 6 weeks ago. He was Canada's goalie at the Spangler Cup, which is usually where Canada sends like their retirees or their AHL players or guys who are looking for like one last dance. They send them to the Spangler. And then Ottawa has backup goalie issues all season, starting goalie issues too. Olmark was away from the team for a while. And then it's just, all right, Reimer, we're going to sign you to I think he was on an ATO with their AHL team or something like that. And I'm like, all right, good enough, get him up here. And that second goal that Reimer gave up was awful, right? I mean, Shen went right through him. And that was the only shot you put on him in the entire period, right? For 20 minutes against a goalie who's semi-retired. Yeah. That was the third period. And then you followed up with this third period. Now, here's a question that Jack and I were discussing before you hopped on. But is it safe to say that they put Riddick in for the last 8 minutes because Patrick Waugh is going to go to Sorokin and be like, I know you gave up 6 tonight, and I know you played tonight, but you've got the option to tell me that you want to play tomorrow night. Is that something that you expect?
It's a great point, Phil. If you had said that did they play Riddick at the end to play Sorokin, I would say not necessarily. Did he put him in at the end to give himself the option? It was also, Waugh famously was not pulled from a Montreal Canadiens game, right? Which is why he wound up being on the Colorado Avalanche. So he knows as a goalie what that's like to have your team roll, not get much help. He does have the option. The post-game show is probably going on now. Maybe Patrick Waugh's feed is available, or when you guys talk, I'll check and see if he's announced it. My guess is he probably wasn't going to be ready to announce after the game tonight who is starting, but he has that option with Sorokin. I'm not going to say I go to the wall on this decision, but I feel like if Sorokin is healthy and says he feels good, how can you not play your clear-cut number one goalie, leading Vezina candidate in that game on Sunday? That just
I don't think he's going to be the leading Vezina candidate after tonight, unfortunately.
As
unfair as that might sound,
he's a leading candidate.
A leading candidate. I would say going into tonight, he was probably the leading candidate. But yeah,
I still feel like he made some great saves early in the game. It's just something that always has worried me in the past with Sorokin is when he gets beat on a goal that maybe he should have had. I feel like it gets on the mental side of him.
Yeah.
And that the third Montreal goal where Caulfield beats him short side, great shot. I was a little bit worried, but honestly, that fourth goal for Montreal, it's off a lost draw. And I don't know how that puck gets deflected, but it didn't even really feel like he had a chance on it. And then it just snowballed. And
yeah.
That out of all the guys on the team that I feel the most bad for, it's him, because man, he's done everything he could this season. And the task right now, I mean, Columbus has lost 2 games since January 10th in regulation, and that's the task tomorrow. You're 2 points behind them, and they have a game in hand, and you have them at home. He's got to start, and they really need to find a way tomorrow. And it's just crazy how we're in this desperation mode. They're 39, 26, and 5. This is not how that's supposed to feel. You look at the Western Conference, you look in years past, like this is going to, if this team doesn't right the ship and end up making the playoffs, this is going to probably be the best Islanders record team in my lifetime to miss, and probably just the best team in general. I can't think.
They missed with 96 points in 16-17.
The Doug Waite year, yes. By 1 point, right?
They missed by 1 point. Yeah.
I could just step in to be fair. All credit to Stefan Rosner on the site. He has tweeted that Patrick Waugh said that Sorokin was pulled because Sorokin is the starter on Sunday against Columbus. So
I figured as much.
That is.
Yeah, I thought they were going to wait to have that conversation on the plane, but yeah. I had assumed once that happened, it was kind of like, listen, man, if you're good for tomorrow, you've got.
Sorry to interrupt, but I felt that was worth.
No, that's important.
Credit.
Look, so they're treating that. They're treating it as a do or die game, very clearly.
It is. Yeah.
And I mean, the other curious thing is going to be what the lines look like and who comes in and who comes out up front for this do or die game. I thought it was very odd to completely mix up the entire forward group and have oddly matched pairings up front in a game like this, where, you know, in the third period, it just looked like they didn't have any feel for each other at that point. Really, from the get-go. I mean, they didn't get off to a good start. Like Jack said, other than that opening 8 minutes of the second period where they were out shooting them 7-0, they looked largely bad.
Where I do have to say, like, and I actually think Palat was okay.
I thought so too in the beginning of the game. I actually agree.
For looking for some positives, but where did I miss something? Where was Braden Shen?
Where was Braden Shen? He was losing the face-off on the 4-3 goal. That's where he was.
After a shift where they had to ice the puck.
He wasn't doing that. Where was he?
I mean, at 5-on-5, he has been quite possibly the worst forward on this team since he's joined the team. I mean, I think he's helped on special teams. The power play doesn't play penalty kill. He's been okay there, but at 5-on-5, he is consistently overrun, and he's the one who I think they're trying to find a fit for. It's his wingers that keep changing every other game, and I think he's kind of adding him in. But we could talk about the asset cost, and I'm sure we will. But I think it's messed with whatever chemistry they had prior to him coming in.
I want to make a
negative way.
I want to make a point on it too. If you're at a job and your contract is expiring in like the corporate world, and you know it's expiring, and the company you work for brings in an older guy and says like, this is a leader, this is why we got him, and like you're sitting there like, and your contract, and you watch another guy get an extension, and you're just sitting there the way Anders Lee has. One could argue that this has had actually a negative effect on leadership on this team. And I kind of feel like in a weird way, the team was like, how they're making such a big deal about who he is as a person and how he's a captain when Anders Lee's contract is expiring in like 2 months. It just has a really weird feel to it for me. And I don't know, man. Like,
no, it's a totally fair comment. I think Lee's too good a pro to let that bother him. The only thing I will say is like the leadership stuff is nonsense. I don't know anyone, including the analysts, including great Thomas Hickey and Cal, and everybody writes the team about the team and covers it so well, or most of the passionate fans who thought this team needed another leader. If Darsh wanted to get Braden Shen for the entire Braden Shen hockey player piece of it all, well, you know, go at it, Matthew. That's your call. But man, this team did not need leadership. This team needed younger legs and passion and like, again, I will say I like Braden Shen as a player. He's had a good career, and I'm not going to bet against him on Sunday against the Columbus Blue Jackets, but I would rather have had a younger guy, even if he's has less of a resume than Schenn. So I thought tonight was a tough one for him, so much so that I was like, hey, I got to eat crow here. Palat, who I was more critical of that trade, it just didn't make sense to me. I don't know why our GM is helping two other GMs take contracts off their hands that they desperately needed to get, and then gave them things for it, even though I understand there were other pieces involved. That's strange to me, but I'm mystified by Schenn. I will be at UBS, a rare appearance tomorrow. I used to go to 2 or 3 games a year. I'll be watching. I'll be really curious to see if he has a bounce back game.
Be an interesting atmosphere tomorrow after tonight.
Yeah, fans are not happy. The comments I was getting were,
oh yeah, we got some to go over.
If they go down early in that game, Lord help them.
Yeah.
Lord help them. And speaking to that in terms of what you're talking about, helping other GMs who are looking to get contracts off the books. If you look at all 3 trades, right? We know Carson Soucy, he wanted to stay local. He just had a baby. And Chris Drury, after having multiple bad taste in your mouth type episodes in that locker room with Trouba, with Kreider, guys who, the divorces were not amicable per se. Right? He was looking to do this player a solid, which begs the question as to then why was the asset cost anything more than what we paid for Bortuzzo, the 7th round pick, right? That's number one. Then you're talking about Palat, right? And his commentary on that was, took that one out of the Julien Brisebois playbook. Like, really? Julien Brisebois let this guy walk because he thought he was washed. Okay, so you're bringing in a guy who your old GM said is not someone that we want on a team that it consistently contends for Stanley Cups. They let him go to New Jersey, and now you're taking him on. I didn't really care that they subtracted Siplikov, right? That kind of ran its course, but we didn't get nearly enough to take that contract on. And then Braden Schenn, they spoke about this, that Schenn was approached last year by Blues management about waiving that clause and making a move, and he didn't want to, and they held on to him. And now again, so you already know that this has been in the works for the Blues for well over a year. Who's bidding against you for this guy?
That's what I said.
Right? And despite all that,
in place and was offering a second and a
right.
And
despite all that, we're giving up a first and a third and our second best goalie prospect, and we got 2 more years of this guy. And then at that point, everyone's like, well, wait for it, guys. They're going to trade Pajot. Just watch, because you don't want to have 2 third-line centers on the team for the next couple. Like, nope, that wasn't the plan, right? So where does that leave you with Anders Lee now, right? You go into the summer, and you look at this roster, and you've got like 13 contracts under contract, 13 forwards under contract, and you could move guys, of course, some more easily than others. But you're going to look at Anders Lee and tell him, well, we don't have room for you because we got Palat and Schenn over here. They took your spot.
It's insane.
It seems a little odd.
And Palat is scored in the first period of his first game and has not scored.
It has not scored since. Yeah, I mean,
it's not at Drouin levels yet, but that's a long time. I understand that he's not been good for a few years now, but that's a long time for a guy who plays between 11 and 16 minutes a game to not have a goal.
Right, and I'm not a huge Shabanov guy by any stretch.
Yeah,
but I would imagine his agent has been consistently calling Darsh after games like this and saying, well, what's 81 doing that my client hasn't done for you guys?
Fair enough.
Right? Like, if you want a guy who's just going to skate in circles, not look pretty defensively, like, at least my guy could complete a tape-to-tape pass. Right? There was a sequence in the third period where they have a 3-on-2 going up ice, and I'm like, Pajot, just pass it to Holmstrom.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Side. And he instead passes it to Palat, who's on his left side, and you've got a 3-on-2 that's completely nuked because
shut down by Dobson, known shutdown defender.
Well, I mean, it was shut down really by Palat because he kind of like skated himself all the way into the wall and had nowhere to go with it, and that was the end of that.
Yeah, he couldn't get it to the front. I know exactly the play you're talking about, and it was just depressing.
I was like, just give it to Holmstrom. Let him do something with the puck here.
Like, yeah.
Heineman's got a bit of a hot hand now. That's positive.
He does. Holmstrom tonight on the power play at one point, something positive that caught my mind is he was skating down the wing a little bit, and Duclair was open on the other side. But honestly, Duclair's fault. Holmstrom makes this seam pass that just nobody sees coming.
Pass.
Yeah, and Duclair is in front of it. He's not like – I was actually watching recently this video about like the Lightning power play about how Kucherov like knows where to be when they have to adjust the angles on these feeds. If Duclair adjusted his angle, that would have been a highlight reel goal. And like, that's something I've really liked from Holmstrom. I think he's probably the 6th best player on this team now. he's just playing at a different level. Like his vision is a lot better. I mean, the finish tonight, that was really nice, but
his hands are literally second to none among this forward group.
Yeah, and he made Fowler look silly on that goal. But other than that, on his line, I thought Pajot was decent, but they got off to a good start. But when you need offense, like Palat's the last guy to have out there. But he's good. I see the pros of him defensively, but this is a player that you see why a second round pick was attached to acquire him. That there's nothing.
Let me just pose this question, Chris. And this would maybe be a better question for tomorrow, and I might be putting the cart before the horse here, maybe a little bit premature. But let's just say you do get to the end of your press conference, and it doesn't end in a playoff berth, right? How is Darsh coming out and defending going into June with just 5 draft picks, only 1 in the first 3 rounds after having traded that one for Braden Shen? A roster that is going to be now significantly more aged than it was this year, given the additions. Didn't look to accumulate or stockpile anything. It seems like he's really banking on a couple guys in this prospect pool becoming players who can impact the game, like Barzal and Horvat, and that's yet to be seen. I don't know if we have anyone in our prospect pool that even projects to be that high. How does he come out, and how does he defend it?
So here's the real hard answer. Here's the real honest answer for the however many people are viewing this show. No bullshit, guys. He's not going to be asked it. He's not going to have to.
He's not going to have to defend it.
And I will say, take that, interpret that, and everybody out there as you will. But the days of Mike Milbury going on WFAN and with Mike Francesa and Chris Russo, and yes, I walked Mike to that show.
Iconic. That's an iconic interview.
And Chris Russo said to Mike Milbury, "How do you have a job right now?" Mike, say what you want about Mike Milbury, and I'm not going to defend his moves, okay? But he went and he did it, and he also answered the question. Basically, in the end, he said, because my employer still hires me, and then he, went on the defensive a little bit and explained some of the history there. In 2026, with the media and the influencer business as it is, and I'm sorry, Jack, if this is a different tone than maybe I don't. This isn't nothing against you guys. He's not going on with IslesDen. If Darsh is going to go on, even with people who we like Johnny Lazarus or whatever, in the summer, he's not going to be asked to, why did you do this? Or look, maybe Darsh. If it comes to this, of course. And by the way, I think the moves aren't great anyway, even if they get a wild card spot or come to third place, right? But he's just not going to have to. It'll be a lot of fans on social media upset, and we'll talk about it. I could tell you right now, my tweet will be that he's somebody who I like to see considered for the job. I was happy he got the job. I thought he got off to a pretty good start. And now he's made some moves that have completely baffled me. And I hope that deep down, if only to himself, he would be honest with himself and say, I've learned from that. Like, I can't do, I'm going to say especially these last 2 deals. Okay. But to answer your question, this isn't Toronto. This isn't Montreal. This isn't, there's probably about 12 or 14 markets in this league left where there are still tough questions and GMs who have to stand up there and answer it, but this is not one of them. And I'll give you another good example. And like Larry Brooks has left us, right? Like this Larry Brooks, even though he might be covering the Rangers, he'd call me and say, I got to get Mike on, or if he was still alive now, he'd be like, hey, can I talk to Darsh? Because I want to ask him these questions. That's, I'll put a bow on it there. Like that era is over. So I'd be surprised if Darsh. I would appreciate if he shows some candor and admits to. One of the problems that you have, right, is that the guys still have term left. So if he says that, like, all right, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to, he can't really say that because these guys have Islander jerseys hanging up in the stalls for them next year. So not to get too ahead of ourselves, but to answer your question as of now, he won't have to answer.
I mean, everyone keeps talking about, well, Palat could be bought out. I mean, if you're already talking about a Palat buyout, right? So then you're talking about, all right, we already had to, with assets, move Jonathan Drouin, who was the first UFA signing of his young GM career. That's the first guy he went out to market and said, I mean, it's not a huge deal, but went out and got him, and only 4 months later, you're shipping him off with assets in a trade for Braden Shen, who, I mean, to be quite frank, hasn't really been an upgrade on Jonathan Drouin, right? To then have to go and buy out Andre Palat. I can't even remember the last time the Islanders bought a player out. I don't even know if his ownership group will allow a buyout. Certainly not under Lou. They didn't buy anyone out then. I think the last person they bought out was Rick DiPietro. I could be wrong about that, though.
Damn, that's a long time ago.
You guys would be better. I trust you better than me, but I think there's got to be somebody more recently than that. And fans will put it in the chat. And
I'm sure they will. But no one under. I know for sure Lou had never executed.
Not a major one, right? No DiPietro, Yashin level.
Yeah, look, I know you, Chris, were a big proponent of the Darsh thing in the summer, and I was not. And my reason, and I tweeted this out, is because I didn't think there was anything that he could have learned in Tampa from when he got in there that would have been applicable to a team that's going to be drafting first overall and needing to overhaul parts of their roster creatively, right? A move that I would have hoped that he would have been in on, the type of move at least, is like what the Penguins did with Chinikov, for example, right? You spend a couple draft picks on a former first-round pick who's got skill and has kind of been crowded out, because what ends up happening when you have 10 first-round picks in a 6-year span is you now need to prioritize which ones are going to be in the top 6, what am I going to layer in on the third line, and sometimes guys like Chinikov slip through the cracks, and that seems to be what happened here, and Dubas was over it. But they weren't developing prospects in Tampa when he was there. They were trading all of their first-rounders in an effort to win as many Stanley Cups as possible, and they were successful in that. And the types of players they were trading for are not necessarily players that would do anything to fix our areas of deficiency. So when you say, and you just ended off, well, I hope he learns from this, I genuinely hope he does. I hope he looks back at year one, whether they clinch a wild card spot or a third in Metro or not, and has the ability to say to himself, well, here are like 3-4 things I got wrong here, and here's what I'm going to plan to do. Like, look, Kyle Dubas, first 2 years in Pittsburgh, pretty awful, right? And that was after a tenor in Toronto that ended pretty much in failure, because the mandate there was, we got to win a cup with these guys. And right now he's looking like the executive of the year at this point. So
he is.
There is hope that Darsh can model himself after what Dubas has been able to do. I mean, it took Dubas 8 years to figure it out. Hopefully it doesn't take Darsh that long, but
if I had the good sense to go on a show with you, Phil, 8 or 10 or 12 weeks ago at the invitation of Jack, we'd be having a different conversation, perhaps, even though, yes, it would have been pre-Palat and Chet at least, and Carson. But look, I'm here now, and I got nothing, right? They just got their fucking asses kicked in Montreal. They just got pushed around like nothing in the third.
Ugly.
In Ottawa. So, ding, ding, knockout, 10-8 knockout. Here, I got nothing to say. This doesn't do anybody good now. I'll just say 2 things. One is, and I appreciate what you said about glasses guy in Pittsburgh and Toronto. Not too sure those glasses are real, but they look good. They make them look smart. The GMs tend to get hot hands sometimes. Some never do. I get that, right? But sometimes they get on a bad roll, and sometimes they get on a good roll. They start to feel more confident about the smaller pickups they make. We see that Pittsburgh's done that. Has had a hell of a season, really, no matter how this might end for Pittsburgh right now. When it comes to Darsh or a Darsh type, what I was the biggest proponent on, and I'll correct one thing about being all in on Darsh, is that I was using the word progressive. I was using the word young, not in an ageist way against Lou. I am the oldest person by 100 years on this call I'm having right now. I would never do that. But the Islanders, Mike Milbury, Neil Smith, Garth Snow, and Lou Lamoriello, who it's kind of unfair to say, right? But four gentlemen, they're bonded by one of the things that they have in common is not only did they never get another GM job in the league, I don't even think they got an interview. Like, that's how bad
That's crazy.
That's how bad our New York Islanders are, right? Snowy, love-hate relationship with him. Had my good moments with him when he was on the team and I was there. Had bad moments after. Some of that's documented, right? But a bright guy, a really bright guy, either chose not to interview or never got an interview and has been out of the game. And I believe that's mostly by his choice. Like, this isn't a guy.
I don't know.
But like, it's pretty interesting. Like we have these guys who have this precious position, right? A GM of the Leafs, GM of the Penguins, GM of the Islanders. And we have guys who they don't work in the game. They certainly don't get a sniff at being GM since. So I like the idea of giving a shot to somebody in that category. I have no personal connection to. I'm saying this for a reason. I have no personal connection to Matthew Darche. I have no great inside knowledge. Some mutual friends that I would hear from, whatever. I was happy to see him get it. I congratulate for him. I root for him. I cheer for him. I will say it says something about Twitter, and perhaps it's a fault of my own, Phil and Jack, that I'm letting you know about this. After Darche got the job, true fucking story, I heard from a lot of people on the phone here, guys who wanted to get jobs with the Islanders, guys who wanted to be a pro scout, guys who wanted to see if maybe he was going to hire another assistant GM. He did, Ryan Bonus. Ryan, who I know is not somebody I heard from, but they were like, hey, can you give me Darcy's cell phone? Hey, can you get, like, they were asking me because just by seeing me scroll through the Twitter and saying, hey, they should interview Darche, and hey, I'd rather go with Darche over, whoever, Holland and the Montreal guy was out of it, Gordon. The people thought, including people in the game, thought that like I was friends for him. And Matthew Darche doesn't know me. I don't know Matthew Darche, so I do want to correct that. He's not had a good last several months. He's not going anywhere. I trust he's going to be GM of this team, whether anybody likes it or not, minimum 3-5 years, minimum. And he better learn from it.
I mean, those Through the Island YouTube spots aren't going to produce themselves. So,
yeah. I wonder what the next.
They're going to have to get creative with the content if this if this thing really hits the iceberg, right?
It's so sad how quickly those things change, right? Like people a month ago were totally jacked up about getting some insight and all that, and then it just shows when you're not winning.
That's what it comes down to, and people want to see winning. And one thing I could say for both Garth and Lou, in their first season, they both did make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. That Garth Petty year, which I was the comms VP for that year, was darn memorable. It was crazy, obviously.
The poke check, the Dublowitz poke check.
Yeah, the Dewey poke check and everything around it. But there was definitely a spirit there. A lot of credit to both those guys and most of the players on that team.
I was thinking about it, actually. So at the 2007 trade deadline, Garth Snow's first year, he trades for Ryan Smith. He trades a first, he trades a prospect, and another prospect. He also picked up Marc-Andre Bergeron. Those were two guys that were playing in the Stanley Cup final in the prime of their careers the year prior.
He missed the first pickup at the deadline. Richard Zednik. They scooped up Randy Robitaille also off of. That was earlier in the season, yeah.
A little earlier.
Oh, you guys are good. I was there and I forgot about Zednik and Robitaille.
But the point is I'm okay with trading assets. I really am. I'll trade a first. I don't care as long as you're getting someone like dynamic in return. I don't even care the age of the player that is dynamic. Like if they traded these assets for Steven Stamkos, I would think it's awesome because you're fulfilling a need on the team. The power play would improve at a pretty good clip. He scored 2 goals today. Nashville's now in a playoff spot. So the point is like, if you're going to go all in, I won't kill you for it. But these moves have been half measures. Chen, Palat, Susi, sure, they might be a tad of an upgrade over Drouin, over Siplikov, but what are we really doing here? Was Siplikov the difference between this team being a playoff team and not? I don't think so. So I don't know, man. Like I would have just.
I'll say on the Smith trade, his credit to Garth is that like at least he knew what he was trading in O'Mara and Robert Nielsen. right? He felt
Yes.
one thing about it I'll say on this show that I've probably said on my show with Joe that we do so rarely is that when a team trades a player, especially when it comes to prospects, like they've seen that guy more than the other team has.
True.
And Garth was very confident that in those two prospects that he wasn't losing much, and that's why he could live with even Ryan not coming back. Quick little story, because I feel like it's why not? If I'm here, right? This will take 30 seconds, and maybe I wrote this 100 years ago, but we have the press conference. Ryan arrives. This is big news. It's bigger news in Canada than it is in Long Island. As you can
That's true.
And people are playing. It's also kind of a different era now because people might be looking at first see if there was a Zoom option, right? But people are coming from all over Canada. Media guys, Strachan, and the guys out in the West. And anyway, we initially had it in a fairly small room. The pickings were slim at the Coliseum. Longer story short, the place is just absolutely packed. I go to get Garth to get his office, to get Garth in his office, and I walk him down the hallway into this room, and it's just overflow. People are whining that it's too hot, it's too crowded. And Snowy has a great sense of humor. He says, man, who knew hockey was popular in Canada? Like that was and it was just like another world, and they even followed us around for a couple of days. So it was a different time. He got Smith because the feeling was that Smith could play, and Smith played pretty well for us down the stretch. And
they were extremely hot when they got Smith,
and
then they sort of just fell apart, and then righted the ship right at the end.
Yeah, this thing of
sounds kind of familiar.
Right, exactly. I mean, they could look. I'm not going to rule it out because I've seen them do it. It just seems a lot more impossible this year, just because the overall play just hasn't been particularly inspiring. There is a common retort I've gotten to anytime I've critiqued the trade, the Shen one in particular, was, well, Lou traded first round picks, or I just want to contrast, like anytime there was movement at the deadline with Lou, for example, and you could say the same with Garth and Ryan Smith. Like these were players that fans were naming as like, yeah, let's go after Pajot, right? He was the top rental that year, objectively. Let's go after Palmieri. We need to replace Lee. Palmieri is one of the top options. It's Palmieri and Hall. We chose Palmieri over Hall, and we got Zajac as a throw-in. Turned out to be the right move at that time. Everyone and their brother and their sister and their cousin wanted Bo Horvat. Like Bo Horvat or Timo Meier, we got to get one of them. We got Horvat, ended up being the right move. So, yes, we were moving first-round picks, but we were generally moving them for players who were in their prime, players who people were excited about and wanted to see in Islander uniforms. If you would have surveyed the fan base back in October, it's like, what do you guys think about Andre Palat and Braden Shen as trade deadline picks up? You would have gotten a 0%
absolutely
approval rating.
If you asked them in January.
If you asked them the day before.
Palat still is mind-boggling for me. If they traded a third only for Palat, I think that one just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. But sorry, Phil. But you're right. No argument there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Go ahead, Jack.
Let's get to some comments. I feel like it will open up some more doors. First one, Josh is in doomer mode. It's over, man.
I got a lot of that.
Wah is toast.
Is there going to be a fall guy, though? I mean, is someone going to have to pay the piper here?
I think if they don't make it, and I was wrong last year because I didn't think at the time Matthew Darsh was going to get the job, but if they were to fall short, I think Darsh would give Wah the start of next season.
So this has been a little bit of a shocking trend to me here. So I've never been a Patrick Wah guy. I haven't said he should be fired, but I've always been okay with that happening. But looking at like the context here, I'm not sure it's super fair to Patrick Wah to kind of be thrown under the bus for this season. If you actually look at his wins and loss record with this team, he's probably around like 30 games over 500. And in the beginning of the season, before any of the transactions, like he was finding ways to get this team motivated. They had an ability to really be resilient all season. And yeah, the power play is terrible. I didn't even like the line combinations he does. I disagree with so many things that he does. But when I'm looking from an objective is this fair? I don't know if it is, honestly. So I'm kind of torn because do I think he's a great coach? No. But does he deserve to be fired if that's the question? I can't really get there because I feel like this team's overachieved. They're 13 games over 500. This just isn't how it's supposed to feel. But I guess if ultimately if they went in another direction, I'm not going to sit here being Mr. Ethics. Like I'll be okay with it. But I don't know. It just feels like he's just the scapegoat.
Phil just went to the sink to splash himself with some water to warm up to get cooled off for his retort to you now. Now, what do you think, Phil? On Wah.
Yeah, I mean, I think someone's going to have to, like, I think his easy out is just to, at the end of the season, say, you know, Chris Lamorello has been relieved of his duties, and like, find some remnant of the last regime who we could kind of toss under the bus and be like, Chris Lamorello and Steve Pellegrini, thank you for your services, and then kind of move on from there. I know you said you think that Wah is going to get the start of next season. I think so too, and that's without even having any idea on what his contract status is. I think the Quebecois connection will do Wah some good over here, and I think he'll have the opportunity to start.
But like the thing is, to me, is Wah has this team. Wah's record, his wins and loss record for this season, and his whole Islanders tenure, like it's not a joke that they're actually like 30 games over 500. I just can't really get there.
I mean, I'll say cynically, that's kind of compiling, right? In a league where not good teams can be 8 games over 500.
True.
Yeah.
And listen, they're going to be hugging Schaefer. I still think they can very well make it. I'm not just saying that. Some sort of cockeyed optimist. I think they can get on a run in UBS with these games here, but they're also going to be holding on to Schaefer. Look at the year that Schaefer had. Look at Sorokin's return. We fired the coach. We made the right decisions. We got them in a position here. So I think I think he's fairly well liked. We've got enough stories about how much everybody loves each other. I think he'll be there for the start of the season. So, but I know, listen, our guy here is just saying was toasted. He's like, he didn't ask our opinion.
Yeah, right. So we're also going to have to expect a lot of comments like this.
And bring on. Let everybody have their say.
James Walsh, old ass team running out of gas at the end of the season, and next year just getting older. It's such a hard pill to swallow. That this is
they were getting younger.
This is now the 4th oldest lineup, everyday lineup in the National Hockey League, and they have an 18-year-old playing regularly in it. Obviously, that's a tough pill to swallow. That the team got older this year, like that sucks. I absolutely hate it. And any way you slice it, they're not just old for this year. It's another year. And with Darsh, as Phil alluded to earlier, when we brought in this, I was expecting just like a different energy around this executive, and that like I figured he would be the one trading for Chinikov, signing Mantha to like a 1-year deal, just low cost risk. Like why not? He kind of said from the start, my goal is to develop, draft, and we got older, and it's just it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow. That's really all I could say.
In the spirit of Passover coming up in the next 10 or so days, so far, how is this GM different from the previous GM in that regard, right? Everyone always accused Lou, like, oh, he's making it old and slow, right? What's the difference? What difference have we seen here so far? Other than he's managed to identify worse players and pay more for them. That's about it.
I didn't expect it. We'll never know, but I'll be curious to, used to phrase was Matthew only listening to himself, for example, on the plot deal. We'll never know, and the teams need to stick together, including scouting teams and management teams. But, what was Ryan Bonus's? What was everybody else's opinion? On the plot one, I said it on the one time I was on here with Jack. Their games are on the same network as the Islanders. I see the Devils a lot, and I hardly know shit about hockey. And this guy was not showing up and not playing. I don't even think he deserved to be acquired. That's my problem. Like he did he didn't deserve to be acquired.
I think you could put Soucy in that same bucket too, by the way, like bottom pair defenseman on the worst team in the conference. And let's be real, if he was an AHL call-up playing like this, he would have been cycled out just as fast as Mitchell and Warren.
But they keep on putting him out there. Now, I know, and I welcome your retort to that. It's not a defense, but they keep on putting him out there 15, 16 minutes tonight. He's pushing back. They have other guys that can play. I know people were at the Bridgeport game today who said, those guys can play defense. Like, I don't get it.
I didn't understand that trade. And then the one thing I want to ask you, Chris,
what was that?
The one thing I want to ask you, I would have to imagine that before any trade, there's got to be a discussion with the GM and the coach about where said player might fit. I would assume so, right?
Definitely.
So how is it that they've acquired Palat and this guy has gone from second line to start to first line about a week and a half ago to fourth line up until today and now to third line? How is it that was there just a complete misunderstanding of what this player's capabilities are at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Wah said, I shouldn't say it as if I know, right? I'm sure Wah was supportive. This sounds like that one definitely feels like a Darsh deal, right? And I'm sure Wah was supportive of that. And what he knows is like what the average person knows in this case is a guy who's had big moments in big games and will come in handy. Now, I will say, these are playoff games. I know that's kind of a cliche, right? But if Palat, we don't need to wait. I tried. I thought it was a decent line on Jack last time. I said we got Palat for the playoffs, right? Like I don't think, like Andre, we don't need to wait for the first round if there is a first round. These are the games. Why has he gone back down to third or fourth line? That's because he's played, right? Like they've now watched.
they got the tape.
I heard from a lot of fans, God bless them, I love them for saying, well, at least he admitted the Drouin mistake. Will they admit the Plot mistake? I would suggest that if they don't get enough of that of him on Sunday against Columbus, then they should admit the mistake and start not playing.
I mean, there's a real case that could be made that he, on a back-to-back, given his age, and given his stamina, should not be playing tomorrow.
Correct. But but hockey guys are hockey guys, and one of the ultimate hockey guys is Rick Bowness, and this is a league where hockey guys love dependable older guys, including Rick, although it sounds like the GM there is doing a nice job filling his lineup. Rick coached the Islanders when I was there. Different era, I get it, different time, but my guess is he'll get one more shot. But without a doubt, I'll ask you who would be that player. Maybe it's Shabby, but after tonight, wouldn't it is there any case that some younger guy would be a better addition to the lineup against Columbus at home Sunday at 7 than Palat right now?
Well, I mean, to that.
Who would you play?
The problem is he hasn't even attempted at any point this season. He's done it at defense before they did the Soucy trade. They cycled in just about everyone they had, Ward and Mitchell and Warren and a dash of George. And we wanted to see more George, but
we did.
Sadly, they made the Soucy trade right at game 2 for that. And
so frustrating, man.
Is what it is. But to me, it's a little odd that with the Palmieri injury, which also coincided a little bit with the Horvat injury, there has been no attempt at any point to cycle in anything from Bridgeport. And yeah, I get it. We don't have top prospects there, right? Maybe the guys aren't going to be blue chippers, but are you really telling me that there isn't a single forward down there from Beckman to Foodie to Luff now to Jeffrey, any of these guys who can't come in and do what Marc Gatcomb's doing or what Kyle McLean is doing, or to our point now, what Andre Palat is doing? You don't have a single guy down there. Is that what the GM wants us to believe?
I'm charged up about what you're saying. What's fascinating about this is that there's no way they do this tomorrow, and maybe not even Tuesday.
Yeah.
And maybe not even Tuesday against Chicago, right? But if they don't, and the team, let's say, continues to struggle, let's say they get 1 point out of 4 in the next 2 games when it should be a 3-point. They need 4, but 3 would be anything less than 3 would be a failure. Then they absolutely should be doing that, Phil. And if they don't, that shows a stubbornness and a resistance to admit that the moves they made haven't worked out. So it bears watching.
John DeMars, there won't be any consequences because our owner straight up does not care about us. Well,
I'm not going there. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I don't believe that.
Well, we don't have to go there, but I do believe.
I don't mean like I'm not going to comment. I mean, that's just silly. They just it's
emotional.
They made the tough decision to not renew a contract of an iconic, legendary guy who got them into 2 straight conference finals.
Yeah,
they did do that. Nobody else did that. Maybe it took a little longer. Some people say it should have never happened. Maybe it took a little longer than some others would have liked, including me. I would have liked it a little sooner. I'll stand by that. But this idea that they don't care, or I mean, I guess what I would encourage. It's just an easy way out. Like not attack. Criticize the GM if you think his moves were shitty. Criticize the players who aren't bringing it. But the idea that they're not going to do anything because the owner doesn't care because he owns stars in London too, and no.
Belmont Village fills up more when you've got Island.
I do agree to a point.
They want to win.
I do agree that they care 100%. Like, this is an emotional response, right? But I do agree that there will not be any consequences because I don't know why there haven't been consequences in the past when they're warranted, but
they've been slow. They've been slow to those consequences.
Yeah, so I do think that that's a trend we do see continue. This is from I don't even know, Keen the 1J. Jack, I know you
something really dirty. Be careful.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I don't know if I should read that one, but Jack, I know you buried Darsh in the past, but I am really trying to hear you rage on this guy tonight. Shen and Palat are inexcusable trades.
I think we've said this about 100 times today.
One of his solo shows, he might have. But
yeah. I will say that the only part we didn't quite cover as well is we were really big on criticizing the former regime on being reactive and not proactive. And the selling of assets that have been sold in Siplikov and Drouin have been literally sold at their lowest value. And that's not a good sign. And when we all watch this team and see their flaws, notice them, even when they're winning, the idea of what was the good fit to bring in, it's just, I'm just really confused, and I hate the moves. I don't hate the guy. I hope that he improves because, as we just saw in the previous question, he's going to be here. So I think it's kind of tough as someone sharing their opinions when they're not popular, but like, the entire fan base, a majority of them love this new regime. They love this general manager, and they will stand by him. And it's like, if everyone does this and the overall sense is that everybody loves everything this guy's doing, like, some people got to stand up, man, on the other side and be like, no, you know what? This is not good. Like, the direction of this team isn't really changing. Just because he says it is doesn't mean he didn't just trade for a 34-year-old and a depreciating asset in Palat. So I kind of do it because I feel like I have to say it sometimes because not a lot of people are. But yeah, these trades obviously haven't been good, and we've spent a lot of time on it.
Phil?
All that is, it'll be very funny next year when Drouin rehabs himself on the Blues in their middle six to a half-point per game player, and the Blues flip him half retained for like a second-round pick at the deadline. That's when it's going to sting a little extra.
And
It will.
My 2 comments are that I do think that the feeling started to turn around the middle of the third period tonight. It was definitely like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll say again to our beloved fellow fans out there who had things to say about anybody who dared to say anything slightly critical or very critical about the Shen trade, is that, darn well. And it's to the point where I've been around so long, whether it be when we had no season ticket holders and I can name them all individually, or even today, or literally this year, those same people have their feeds are full of fire everybody, trade everybody. This guy sucks. I'm burning my jersey. So it's a passionate business. I guarantee you some of those people who I can't believe anybody has anything to say about the Brain Chen trade or have some different things to say tonight that aren't so positive. So we'll see at some point. And before we log off, and I want to get through also, I'd love to get everybody's take on your prediction for Sunday against Columbus and your prediction for the last 12 games of this year, a record.
It's so hard after what we just watched to put that together in my head right now. But Data Dom, normal host of this program with me, they deserve this for that shitbag coach being kept and hiring a clueless GM. The raw emotion.
Has Data Dom always felt this way? I know he's a regular.
He is not. He has really been against Patrick Waugh from the start. And I actually agree with a lot of what he says. It's just now his take is finally gaining some momentum within the fan base. And that seems to be a trend. He seems to be on things a little bit earlier.
You mentioned that when I was on with you last week.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it were up to me at the end of last year, I would have actually went with a new coach with the new GM, because it's just like you're drafting a kid first overall. We didn't know he was going to be like this, but it's just the switching of coaches. I just don't want us to be labeled with dysfunction for this kid starting his NHL career. So that's why I would have hired a new coach last year, not why I'm keeping Waugh. Just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, I was surprised they kept Waugh too. I thought he'd want his own guy.
Yeah.
Anybody else would have. I think Darsh getting hired saved them.
They have Isles Hub, New York. They let the Habs back in the game, and now fatigue you are seeing is the result of older players on the team. Not only their play, but their lack of minutes and overloading your other players. This is a great point, actually. So a thing that I would say a lot throughout the season is the Islanders were extremely lucky to have this Olympic break, and we're even luckier that Schaefer, Sorokin, and Barzal didn't get selected. Should have been probably, but that's up for debate. Either way, Waugh the whole season has been – Barzal is a career high in minutes. Schaefer's playing freaking 30 minutes a night sometimes.
He only played 22 tonight, I think. I guess Waugh maybe pulled the chute a little bit early. I didn't notice him in how much he played in the last few minutes, but only 22 minutes. Only.
How many penalties did we have to kill tonight?
A lot.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Good point. All right, but at least he'll be okay Sunday.
So the point being, though, he was loading these guys. These guys were playing insane minutes, and they were really lucky to get that break, because in a regular season, a normal 82-game season, these guys would be really struggling and really probably out of gas by now. So the fact he got that break, it's allowed him to keep doing it. And it's kind of an unsustainable way in a normal regular season where you don't have 3 weeks off. So I do think that there's some truth to this. And really, with the forward lines tonight, I felt when 13's line was out there and Holmstrom's line, like they were okay. The other lines were they were a straight up liability. Like when they were out there and icing happens, goal. It's just, and then Barzal comes back out there after getting double shifted, goal. So the lack of depth is definitely catching up to them.
Let's go to the next one. I want to hear from everybody. I'm sure it's very sunshiny in there.
We actually made this point earlier. Not scoring in the second period was the nail in the coffin. They had 2 posts that disallowed goal.
Yep.
Just brutal. Andy, are you kidding me with the undershirt?
I'm not kidding.
That's all Andy had to say. Where's he go?
That is. What chances win lottery again? Oh no, we can't be doing this, James. It's not that bad. Alex, having a game tomorrow is the last thing the team needs.
It's going to be a challenge. The only thing I'll say is
you rip off the Band-Aid. That's it.
Yeah, and also, they fly. Everybody's in a first-class seat with a good meal. They are going to land in about an hour from now, about 12:30. They will be home at 1. Like, this is not a tough grind. They won't have a skate Sunday at UBS. They'll get to the rink at 4:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30 or so, 5:30 meetings. Like this is not a tough. It's a tough back-to-back because they got the ass kicked in the third period. They got pushed around, in my opinion, especially in the third. And, well, the score said it all. And, they're licking their wounds. But it's these – I was going to say these are young guys. I understand they're not that young, but many of them are not.
It's all relative, right?
And Columbus played. So.
Well, one thing I did want to say, by the way, that I noticed while we were on the stream, I just looked up the score. The Islanders got one good thing to happen tonight. The Detroit Red Wings and Boston Bruins game did not go to overtime, and the Bruins won 4-2 in regulation. So that makes life a little bit easier.
What are they? They're 1 point out of wild card spot.
Yep, they're 1 point behind Detroit.
Points ahead of Ottawa.
So the thing is that's interesting, the Islanders now being 1 point behind Detroit and 2 in front of Ottawa. While Ottawa does have that game in hand, Ottawa and Detroit also play each other on Tuesday night. So
just bad, actually, that smells like the rare 4-point game where the NHL will somehow arbitrarily award each of them 2 points just for showing up, just to screw the Islanders, right?
And also we should point out that Ottawa has a scrimmage in Madison Square Garden on Monday night.
That is good to know. That is good to know.
Scrimmage.
It's literally like that. I mean, remember when – I'm not even going to get there. I'm not even going to go there with those Rangers games.
Actually, I'm not going to.
No, like we were gassing up those Rangers games a lot in this fan base. Steve Stevenson, all your smirks tell us exactly how we feel. Data Dom, Isles haven't been defending the cycle well since Trotz was the coach. I don't think they've been defending well. Period. I think sometimes they've been goalieing well. Bob Joe, fuck this team. Not enough pressure. Okay. Dom elaborated a little bit. This is a good. This is just
no puck movers exit the zone. I mean, this is
Susie.
This is where I shine.
Yeah,
they're missing Pierre Engvall, man. People won't admit it, but this bottom six could use Pierre Engvall in the worst way. Just gonna say it.
You'll
won't
still
be popular. Won't be popular, but having a guy with a long stick, metaphorically speaking, too, who can skate the puck out of trouble and create more offense than almost every single person that we have in the bottom six right now. I think people underrated what he brought, and people just didn't like the fact that he is very tall, very muscular, and doesn't throw his body.
Oh yeah, allergic to hits, but
yeah,
probably a better hockey player than Kyle McLean and some of the others down there. Ian Stevenson, hey Jack, Ian here, writing my post game, and I'm a few drinks in. How mean/angry should I be? It's gonna be tough, man. Like having to write about that.
Writing a post game story, and while drinking, is that the?
Yeah, I mean, just go off, dude. Honestly, just go off. Everything you feel. That should be a fun read. Brian Kirshner checking in from Montreal.
Oh man, that's a brutal game to be at, Brian. Sorry about that, bud.
I'm sorry.
Founders Booster Club was there, pretty good contingent.
I think I would have had to leave after the 6-3 goal. I'll stick around, but the 7-3 one, I would have to go.
When the Hats go on the ice, that's where I'm done.
Yeah, 19 consecutive to start so strong and have it turn into a 7-3 funeral march. Spiritually, the season hinges on tomorrow's game. So how much are we putting on tomorrow's game?
Spiritually, sure. If they were to lose and if they were to lose, period. That's spiritually, that's going to be bad on morale and everything else. It's still, we could do a show 3 games from now and say they're done, or the next game's the biggest game of the year. And there's enough mediocrity around this race still. As much as I think Ottawa has a scrimmage on Monday, I said on your show, when they get close, they've done this the last few years. When they get close, they then shit the bed and fall out. They basically would do what Buffalo did for years until this year.
Detroit does that too, but
Detroit, who Jack said, credit to Jack, said that a week or 10 days ago that was a team he didn't believe in, and they lost. It was they who lost tonight, right?
Yeah, at home too. That's a devastating loss.
Does 7-3-2 get you in? And I understand 7-3-2 is ambitious for me to say, but if the Islanders go 7-3-2, do they get one of the playoff spots?
I would say probably, but it's not a guarantee.
Oh no! It's not a
guarantee.
Going 7-3.
7-3-2 probably. I mean, again, they've got games against Columbus, Pittsburgh, Ottawa. They're going to see all three of those guys, and Philly. I mean, don't discount Philly.
They're right there too now.
They're coming hard charging right now. They're only 4 points out of a playoff spot.
I think they're 3 and Senators are 2 now.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Philly 1 on road.
Corey Free, if they miss, what are the odds the Islanders move on from Waugh, and the odds Darsh is a one and done? Darsh will
already. I think we all are in agreement that both Darsh will for sure be here next year.
0%. Waugh is, 30%. I just can't. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I was surprised, and I'll say it again, that Waugh owes Lou Lamoriello his job back in the NHL. Nobody else was hiring Patrick Waugh, and yet Patrick had a couple of moments. Some of them were really well reported and well documented, where he kind of, Heisman Lou a little bit, or kind of did one of these, like, talk to the GM, which I thought was unprofessional. I trust him and Darsh, or at least from what I can tell so far, that they're having a good relationship. As long as everything is strong there, then I would think Waugh would be
okay. One thing I want to say about Waugh, and this I think everyone needs to hold against him. It was he who famously went after Anthony Duclair in free agency and convinced Lou to go get him. Right? The New York Post had an article about that. Duclair, when he first joined, said, Waugh called me the morning of July 1st asking me if I would join the team. Right? He had played for Waugh in junior. Right? And then the whole episode last year, he completely tears his groin, comes back not fully healthy, Waugh maybe not understanding that he's playing in a very limited way, then goes off at him, says that he's an embarrassing player. The fallout happens. And then this year again, and this is, I guess you could throw some blame on the GM too over here, but he's playing the best hockey maybe of his life in January. Duclair, when Horvat was out in January, he kept the team alive. He scored 8 goals. He was like better than point per game in like a 12 or 14 game stretch. The Vancouver game, he won on his own. The Jersey game, like so many huge goals. And then the thing that cooled him off immediately was the Palat trade. Like the night before, he had 2 assists against Philly in that 4-0 shutout, like both of them really nice assists. And then as soon as Palat comes in, just completely, messes with the lines, messes
off
with
PP1.
Off power play 1 all of a sudden, which was just crazy. I don't know how he's not on power play 1 right now. It's, he's got the best scoring rates on the power play on the team this year among forwards. And then like all it took is 2 games later for a terrible showing by everyone against the best team in the league since December, Buffalo. Like they got their asses kicked. And who gets made the example of it's Duclair again. So if you want to,
this is why I welcomed, and not that I'm doing anybody any favors here, is why I was excited to do a show with Phil at some point, because we all have our things that we do. I know I'm parodied, or I could be caricatured on my things that I lean into. But what Phil just said, it's reasoned, it's backed by data, it's factual. It's fucking bullshit that Duclair get, because of Palat but it's everything that you said is right. Makes me wonder if there will be on Sunday at 5:00 tweets from Stefan and Andrew and everybody covering the team with some surprise lineup changes for the game.
Yeah, I hope they don't take him out. I would hope that they put him next to Horvat and Barzal, which is what I wanted. And I was okay with putting Lee up there tonight, but I don't know.
It just really good.
I mean, if you want to go with what I think would be the most effective lineup for tomorrow night, it's what you said. Put Duclair with Horvat and Barzal. Get your second line. Again, your second line should be Pajot, Lee, Holmstrom. That's the second line. I don't care what they paid for Shen. He is not better than Pajot. Your third line could be something like Shen, Heineman, and pick him out of the hat. I don't really care at that point. I guess Palat. And then your fourth line should be who am I missing? I'm missing someone here, but McLean, Cizikas,
Shabanov.
Who did I just scratch here accidentally?
Howdy.
Gatcomb.
Sit Gatcomb, sit
You know, they were in Bridgeport on Saturday watching the kid.
Cole Iserman.
Yeah. So I'm not saying they're going to bring it up, but maybe somebody else caught there, right?
I don't know. Foodie's having like the best season of his entire career there. I'm surprised that someone like that hasn't gotten a look. Former Columbus first-round draft pick. What better spot to put him in?
Honestly, bring him up.
Bring him up. I love giving guys shots. And again, this isn't something I know. I'm just saying from seeing it happen. I love seeing that guy come up with one game. And I get it. Maybe the second game he hits the wall, but you need something. And it's not even a dice roll at this point when you're getting nothing. I should point out, guys, here that the nose is not me or my alias here. But if you don't know the nose, I won't need to share his name, but he's a former long time sports editor in New York City at one of the major newspapers, and writer and everything else, and a big-time Islander fan who goes back well before the dynasty. He's got a few years on me, but that's who the nose is.
Next from the nose, it's an old, mediocre team that played great in OT all season. And listen, like, this is obviously an angry statement, but for me personally, this whole so in overtime this season at 3-on-3, the Islanders are 10-0, I believe. Yeah. And that to me is not so much a great thing. That to me is more of like, well, okay, it's obviously a great thing. Like one of the most exciting ways to win a game. Yes. But it's like kind of a red flag, and it's more of a luck indicator than this is a really good team indicator. And it's something that I've kind of put in the back of my mind for later on. And, you know, fans are upset that the Islanders have, you know, like they're tied for the fourth amount of wins in the Eastern Conference. But the part that they love to leave out is they've got like the sixth most regulation losses in the conference too.
Yeah.
So thank God they're 10-0 in overtime, because without that, they wouldn't be here. And they've just had a little bit of luck on their side. Of course, there's been some dynamic play, but it's just that it is a crazy stat. And there's a reason it hasn't happened in over 30 years. I'll be there tomorrow coming from New Jersey. Not excited. Corey, it sickens me that we went out and spent premium assets on Shen, Palat, and Susi. Younger guys, speed, goal scoring. Why can't we get a wild card who scores like Line A or Kyrou and let captains and leadership that's already in place correct them?
I don't think Kairou's a wild card. I think Kairou's a pretty established goal-scoring winger.
It's not a defense. I'll just say if a guy wasn't traded anywhere else.
I always subscribe to that, by the way. I do agree with that. I try to look at like, okay, who was moved? What were they moved for? Is there any reason why that team would not have moved that player to us? Try to evaluate it from that standpoint and then see if there's a fit. Like there were a couple guys who I called out like 6 weeks before the trade deadline even. I said, like, guys I'd be interested in are Michael Bunting. He only went for a third-round pick. Bobby McMahon, second-round pick and a fourth-round pick. I was on the Chinikov train since August. Like, I called that out in August as someone who Columbus was crowding out. He had requested a trade back then. He was almost traded somewhere. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was one of these, like, you know, sell low type things on, like, former first-round picks. Like, I can't remember exactly where he was going to go. But those are the kinds of things where you have to ask, like, okay, was our GM in discussions about these players? And if he wasn't, then, well, we got to clean up the evaluation process going into next year as to the type of player that we're looking to plug lineup holes.
And if Armstrong got from Darsh what he did for him to unload Shen's deal with 2 years left on it, what was he asking for Kyrou or Thomas?
Oh, I think it was a lot of speculation on the part of the quote unquote insiders as to, like, is Kyrou moving? Is he not moving? Like, anytime you've got players with full no trade protection, like Kyrou and Thomas do, with very lengthy contracts, those are the types of moves that you usually see in the summer. Mm-hmm. It's not very often you see that happen at the trade deadline.
It probably won't happen now because we shot our darts.
I have to say, I did not know how many more comments we have to get through. So we're gonna
light speed. Let's do it.
We're gonna pick up the pace a little bit here. Only the Isles can make a season where Schaefer does this and Richie looks like that. We can still feel awful. Yeah, if they miss the postseason with a Vezina candidate, a Calder Trophy lock, and just like all of the great production they've gotten from some players this season, it's going to be really tough to swallow, especially after the deadline. I kind of agree with this comment. Goodness graciously, I can't be convinced that the Isles didn't just blow their entire season over the course of the last 2 games. I don't even care what happens the next game. The season is blown.
Okay.
Talk to us in 24 hours.
Yeah, if Jack's doing a show tomorrow, let's see.
We will see. We're going to need another show to finish up these. Michael, is Palat's contract guaranteed next year? Oh, you know it is, buddy. Let's see. Someone we haven't gotten to yet.
Go ahead, roll through. Me and Phil turn off our mics for now.
Remember when Darsh said Palat's advanced stats suggest better? What was he looking at?
He also said that Carson Suzy had a great plus-minus on the Rangers, and that's why he traded for him. And I think he's like a -8 here or something like that.
That's brutal. That's like a stat that we all know is so outdated. Is Darsh a top 25 GM in the NHL as well, top 25 coach in the league? Yeah, Dom is not having fun with this.
Right, everybody.
Phil, good analogy between Dubas and Darsh. Darsh in over his head, and I don't think he will ever realize how bad he did in his first year.
Well, he might. He might in a couple of weeks. We'll see.
Eric, looks like DiPietro was the last buyout for the Islanders. Wow.
Knew it. And that was a compliance buyout, so that barely even counts.
Well, they haven't bought out. Oh no, Ricky was after I left. Okay.
Well, I mean, maybe you could provide insight on that. Like when you do a buyout, I would imagine most owners want to be consulted on that type of thing because that means they're going to be paying someone millions of dollars to not work for them.
Wong, right? Charles Wong, the late Charles Wong on the Ash, and then DiPietro on their contracts, and then ultimately on their buyouts. And Charles, take it where was very good, close personal friends with both players. Was involved in all those discussions in the contracts signed and in their buyouts.
Right. So, do you think that there's a chance that like this particular ownership group is just the type that would say to the GM, like, "No, you bought that, you need it, and I'm not buying it out." Is that possible?
I think they would draw the line at some point, but I think if, like, let's say the ask is for a Palat, guys, I didn't get this one right. If it comes to that, I could use some help here. I need some support. I'd be really surprised if they don't back
up. Eric, what do you think the odds are that Darsh was sitting around trying to make one of the big names work and then panic backed into Shen so that it wouldn't look like he didn't actually do anything?
I have a theory here, which is that
something to that. I think Armstrong played that. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, my theory is, it's a conspiracy theory, if you will, but they had the camera set up because they were in the same hotel as the Blues, and they love getting that content out right away where it's like, all right, we got him. And then they come in and he comes down the escalator and they hug each other. And I just think by hook or by crook, he was going to get a St. Louis Blue to come from floor 14 to floor 12 and make YouTube content. So it didn't even need to be Shen. It could have been Toropchenko. It could have been Falk. It could have been Binnington. They were getting someone off the Blues roster because they needed the YouTube content.
That's a harsh theory. I do want to just point out that
it's a fun one. I think Armstrong might have played Darsh a little bit on the come down from the bigger targets. I'll say that.
That's what happens when you get a rookie GM.
Something that really stood out to me within Eric's question that I realized, the Buffalo Sabres were in on Robert Thomas. They were in on Colton Parayko, and those were two guys that the deal didn't work. And for whatever reason, one guy didn't waive his no trade. And, they were willing to ship out high-end prospects and assets. But when they didn't get those guys, they were like, you know what? Okay, we'll add something. Toss a third, a second to Winnipeg for just 2 big-body defensemen. And they're like, here you go, guys. This is our ad. And that's what I would have been okay with Darsh doing that too. If he threw a second to Toronto or a third for Scott Lawton, wouldn't have had a problem with that. So just like the experienced general manager seemed to – he seemed to not have the panic, but to be fair, we do not know how it all transpired.
And there's 2 things I hate. I hate the idea that, well, it's a late first, it's basically a second, which is just a new thing that was just invented specifically for this year, right? There is a real chance that Colorado plays Dallas in the second round. Really good chance that happens just because of how screwed up the playoff format is. And there's a really good chance that Dallas beats them again. If that's the case, then they'll be picking 27. Cal Ritchie was a recent pick 27. So that's number one on that front. And then the second thing that people like to throw out as well, it wasn't even our pick. We kept our pick. This was what we got back in the Brock Nelson trade. Right? Imagine saying, well, yeah, we traded Cal Ritchie, but he wasn't even our prospect. He wasn't even our pick. So not a big deal. No, it becomes your pick, right? And it's the same thing that happens with, the Susi and the plot thing. Well, the third round picks.
We like the third, right? Then we gave it
right.
away.
Exactly.
It's belief, it's fandom, of which I am a former employee turned fan, fan way before that, and it's part of that is twisting yourselves and knots to counter any negativity. It's something that I'm seeing more and more. I can't knock it. It's nice, but some of the rationalization is a little nutty, and I would ask them to try to rationalize it a year from now.
Mike, with some optimism, if they win tomorrow, they're in wild card 2 at least, which we discovered when we saw that the Bruins beat the Red Wings tonight. President Lee, President Lee of all people says he doesn't see the need for Lee to be re-signed. He's the real character piece. I don't think it's something that they're going to do now that Schenn is here. We
did a contradictory statement. I'm not really sure what he's saying.
But Wah needs speed. Lou goes. Team gets faster, then Darsh goes back to old and slow. Feels that way. Michael,
that's right, but I don't know how. I said I would turn off my mic, but I had a thought. Could you trade for Schenn with 2 years left? And you're gonna say, I'm not saying what I would do. I don't have that attachment, but the Islanders, and I will say, I wonder if the owners might have something. They're gonna say goodbye to Anders Lee.
Yeah, that's what I said also. It would be the strangest thing in the world where it's like,
they did say goodbye to Pajot. Like I said, Lee might be 2 years. They say, hey, Anders, work with us. You get something better, God bless. But
it would be very, very strange to see that set of circumstances transpire. And Lee is better than all of Schenn, Palat, Pajot.
And he does. He means something in that room. And I know the leadership stuff. I'm the first one to sometimes poke fun at it, but he has real value, credibility in that room.
Right. I was talking to someone about that offline like a day or two ago, and they're like, well, maybe they need to get rid of Lee because they want to pass the captainship on already to someone else, and they can't do it. Like, you could do that if Lee's there. I think that's part of, you say, like, look, you're going to be 36 years old. It's time to pass it down to the next generation, whether it's Horvat or Barzal or even Schaefer. Although I don't think they'll do that just yet. It might be that'll come maybe with his next contract. But just like Tavares handed it off to Matthews, I could see that happening next year, even if they keep Lee. Separate Barzal and Horvat.
Yeah. So as for the on ice play right now, and given what some of the lines do look like, would you guys welcome this? I think at this point they kind of have to, and just have them together on the power play or late in the game if they need a goal. I don't think the rest of the team is capable of holding their own with these two guys together right now.
My only vote is, don't you have to fucking make up your mind about that by now?
Yeah, it's not a good sign, obviously, when we still are going through these types of situations.
Yeah, again, that's me not knowing anything. Just like, how long are we going to live with this? You want them together or not?
This question has been asked by fans. It's been debated by fans for now, 3 years? I just think at this point they were probably hoping that Schenn could play second line center instead of Ritchie, and that was going to be a substantial upgrade so that these two could stay together. But the reality is they're getting destroyed at 5-on-5 in terms of chances when Schen's line is on the ice playing in those minutes. I think if Schenn moves to a third line role, I do think that he can be effective. It's just the second line minutes, it's just not working. So I think that Barzal does have to go back to second line center, or Horvat does, and they just got to make the most of what's around them and do what they did most of the season and just try to carry everything and hope that they could get to the finish line like that.
Yeah. What else you got?
Let's see. Isles magic number is 26, tragic 24 for everyone saying it's over. The numbers are only 2 apart, and I think that's a good note to leave on. So really a complete disaster in Montreal, a meltdown, but at the end of the day, it is just one game, and they have another one tomorrow. And who knows, maybe I'll do another one of these streams tomorrow. I'm not sure yet, but maybe there's a whole different feeling around the team tomorrow night. They got to win in regulation. Literally everything's against this team tomorrow, right? It's the hottest team in the NHL. Back second half of a back-to-back. At least they're at home, but I don't know. What are you guys expecting for tomorrow?
I'll say they got one more, for now, big moment in them, that somehow they will win tomorrow. Shen will score a goal in regulation. The Islanders will win in overtime. The goalie, Sorokin, will do enough. If not be spectacular, he'll do enough. And they will go 7-3-2 and get one of the wild card spots.
Okay, so you're still believing.
Yeah, I mean 7-3-2 and a wild card spot. 2 weeks ago, everybody would say you're so fucking negative about it. You think they're going to just go on the wild card spots? So I guess if that's believing now, then yes, I'm yeah.
I mean, the heart wants to agree with you, but the brain is telling me that Sorokin gets pulled in the first period after giving up 3 early.
Oh man, that would be so sad. I don't want that.
It just feels like that kind of energy. It feels like the Ottawa goal with 11 seconds left is this year's version of the Palmieri disallowed goal against Columbus last year that kind of set the thing off. They were cruising and everything was going, and if that goal counts, maybe they come out. But I think it's the knife to the heart. We'll see.
I do think. I still, for some reason, do believe that they will make it, but it's going to be hard. And the 10 out of the last 12 at home is really helpful. As for tomorrow, when a team gets blown out of the water like this, I don't know. I just have a better feeling that they'll be more ready to show up tomorrow. Think about Columbus, too. They have been fighting like hell, and they finally are in this playoff spot. The desperation between these two teams has totally flipped. And the Islanders beat them in Columbus when they were desperate last time. So I don't know. I really don't know what to expect because what we just watched, I don't know what the lines are going to look like. But I have a hard time believing that they're not going to have some sort of response tomorrow in the first period. I expect them to come out flying. They know that they're professional. It's a veteran team. So they know it's just 2 points tonight, and they can't make it four lost ones tomorrow. So I do think they come out and play a good game. And hopefully they win the game.
My laptop might actually die in a minute or two, so I'll say this will be my last comment, which is that if I pop off, I actually think that would be very fitting if I just disappear off your screen. This was awesome doing this with you guys, and really nice to work with Phil and Jack. Thank you for the conversation. I'll stay on as you guys continue to wrap up, but if I disappear, that's why.
Got it.
Likewise,
yeah. Well, I think we're all good here. So, thank you guys all for listening. Thank you for all the comments, the questions. It was fun. Phil, Chris, thank you guys for joining me tonight, and see you guys again soon. Everyone have a great rest of your weekends, and let's hope that they can have a better game tomorrow.